In the story Hole in My Life by Jack Cantos, it's an autobiography where Jack explains his young adult life. In the beginning of the story, Jack lives in Florida and attends Sunrise High School and is a mediocre student at the school. Due to his dad's work, he is forced to move around a lot, and this makes education hard for him. When he moves the first time with his dad in the story, he is unable to attend any of the schools because he does not speak Spanish. So he is forced to move back to Florida with the Bacons so he can finish his high school at Sunrise High School. When he's living with the Bacons, this is when he starts getting into drugs and other things. He eventually gets kicked out of the Bacon's house because he's a troublemaker and throws up because of his alcohol abuse. After this, he mainly lives on his own and tries to find writing inspiration through many things and begins to start pursuing his writing career. So, in doing this, he tries to drive around Florida to try to find this inspiration, but does not find much inspiration at all, even when trying to talk about the racist problems in St. Croix. He eventually tries to apply college because of his writer's block problem, tries to attend some of the better schools for writing, and he doesn't really have enough money to do any of this. So when Rick reaches out to him to talk about the money, $10,000 for driving the boat with Hash, he accepts the deal in order to get more money for his education. Once he accepted this job, he began doing a lot more drugs, and over the course, he basically gets his addiction problem even worse. Um, Once they land, him and Hamilton land, they start selling all their drugs, and they didn't realize that Rick was actually already caught at this point and told the police that they were doing this. So once he is sentenced to jail, he starts writing in one of the prison journals, but he does not know that once he gets out, he will have to give the journal back to the jail. Um, but when he's in jail, he gets accepted to college towards the latter part of his sentencing, which helps him be released early. And he gets a new opportunity towards the end of the story with a new family, selling Christmas trees and attending school. The theme of this story was really recovering from mistakes and overcoming adversity. In the story, the author was trying to teach us that you can always turn your life around, and even when you have dug yourself a deep hole, um, like Jack did in going into prison, you can still turn your life around and make the most of it with a new opportunity. Um, One of the main author's purposes during the story was to inform and explain how someone can bounce back from hard times in life, and this is really shown in Jack Cantos's character because he seems to be in his low point in life, and he gets accepted to college, gets a new opportunity, and really makes the most of it. Um, the mood, in my opinion, was scarefulness and fearfulness because throughout most of the story, that's really the tone that was given off. Jack was afraid and scared of his future and didn't really want to um, face his future directly. So obviously the main character in this story was Jack Cantos, and throughout the story he really developed, um, but throughout most of the early parts of the story he was very fearful of his future. He really focused on his writing and education career. Another key character was Hamilton. He was a lot of times really relaxed, but he also seemed like he didn't care much about others or particularly his future because he was always telling Jack to relax, and the police weren't very smart when they were on the boat. And another key character was Jack's father. He moved a lot around for business purposes, and he can tell a lot about others. Um, when Jack was really had a good relationship with his father would explain how he knows a lot about other people and can tell a lot just from looking at them, and knew like what kind of person they are just from looking at them. Rick was also another main character. He set Jack up with the opportunity to make the money driving the boat with the hash, but also snitched on them in the end of the story. Um, some of the strengths I thought the author did very well was character development, and I thought he did a good job of this by showing the real lows in Jack Cantos's or his life, and then show how he becomes a really good and joyful person towards the end after he got a new opportunity. One of the weaknesses I thought was figurative language. I thought this because it was an autobiography and not much figurative language is to be expected, but I thought like the book was very straightforward with meanings and didn't use many metaphors or any types of figurative language at all. I learned a lot about the people around my age and like how this can vary through different cultures. Like for example, Jack lived in a very lower wage family and they moved around a lot, so this is very different from my family, which we haven't moved at all, and we have a pretty high wage family, so a lot of Jack's struggles that shaped him don't really occur in my life. And I would recommend this book to teenagers or young adults who would want to read an entertaining story like this. I thought this story was, although it was very straightforward, it really explained a really good story and had a really good plot line.